So are you looking for some dating advice? I don't know how many different people you've talked to about this, or if maybe you've been one of the people that others have come to ask for your advice. Perhaps you're a parent and you have teenagers and they're wondering what am I supposed to know? What am I supposed to know? When you think about dating advice, it wasn't too long ago that I saw, I think it was on an online newspaper, and I didn't get into the article, but I read a few lines at least. The big claim was that you should wait to have sex until at least 2 months into dating. And that's probably viewed as kind of revolutionary on the side of restraint, perhaps. But it made very obvious that there are a lot of different messages that go out to kids, to young people, to older adults about what is right when it comes to dating. So, who do you listen to? Well, it's interesting that the Apostle Paul actually talks about dating. That may be a little bit of a surprise, but he never married, but that makes him unqualified to talk about dating. Well, he actually doesn't share any personal views on dating. What he does is he talks about God's will with regard to propriety, with regard to sex, with regard to relationships between people. And what he says is, this is the will of God. Like, he just lays it right out there. This is the will of God. And it's interesting that when he finishes, he says, if you don't listen to this, you're not setting aside a man. You are pushing to the side God. So that makes what comes next pretty serious. God has some very specific advice when it comes to dating. What does he say? What he says is that a young man should acquire a wife, should gain a wife in this realm of holiness and honor. That this should be different from the way that many people look at acquiring a wife. This should be a process which a young man ultimately is viewed as, wow, that was honorable. This is a process that involves purity. The particular verse that is used by the Lord to explain this can be understood either to acquire one's wife in the realm of purity and honor, or to control one's own body in purity and honor, and ultimately the final point is the same. What the Lord asks young people or older ones who are dating to think first of all is that they do not want to sin sexually. Now, what constitutes a sexual sin? Well, sometimes young people are interested in knowing, like, where's the line? Like, what can you do? What can't you do? What does God say is okay? What does God say isn't okay? The way the Lord approaches it is from the perspective of the heart. We do not want to lust. We do not want to have desires for somebody that would be appropriate only in the context of marriage. And so if something puts my head in that direction, even if I haven't touched, or even if I haven't had the ultimate in the sexual act, if my head is going to a place where it shouldn't be going, then I am thinking in an impure way. In other words, the Lord asks young men and young women to conduct themselves in a way that they are honoring the Lord in their heart. And surely that means that they want to stay away from some activities or behavior that makes it way easy to think things that are not right. Now, that doesn't mean that it's wrong for a young man to be attracted to a young woman. And I think we also want to recognize that because we're sinful, to imagine that we're going to be able to be in a relationship and never have a lustful thought is not recognizing that we have a sinful nature in us. But what God says to you is, my will is your holiness, that you are set apart from the way the world looks at dating, that you're set apart from the thought that I need to excite the sexual urges prior to marriage. The Lord brings such wonderful blessings in marriage, and the Lord assures you that the proper way, the honorable way to gain a lifelong partner is to live in holiness and in honor. There's a lot of advice there that you can find in the world about dating. And how do you know? So many different opinions. Well, that's true. There are a lot of different opinions, but there is only one will of God.